Okay, welcome back everybody. Today I've got another weekly trade review for you, or I'm going to be reviewing the trades I took this week. So I'm actually recording this on Thursday, as Friday's NFP, so I don't trade that, and looking by what happened today, I'm probably unlikely to touch today, to be completely honest. I do have a potential gold position. If I take that, obviously I'll put that in at the end of this video, but as of now when I'm recording this, there's nothing really, I'm not likely to take anything. So I've took two trades this week. They've both been losses. It's not the best week, and it's not been the best week analysis wise, but obviously it could be very easy for me to either lie about the trades I took or just not make this video this week. However, I want to try to be honest to help hold myself accountable and to show what trading's really like. You might even have weeks where you don't win, you might go on long periods. Obviously it's only two trades, it's not anything big at all, but it's just this week analysis wise it's definitely around here. I was wrong. I should have trusted my initial analysis, but anyway, we'll get into it. So yeah, I'll jump into the first trade I took this week. As I said in last week's review, I'm going to start on DXY because that's what I do when I'm live on the charts. Explain what I was looking at here and then why I chose EU to pair with it. As you can see, we were still in this daily fair value gap, which is the zone I had marked out before as my higher time frame potential area to push price down to this low. We also, from this 4 hour right here, respected that one and still moving away from it. So on the 4 hour right here, we have this fair value gap, which at the time of entering we was respecting. Also on the 1 hour, we swept this high right here and had this nice rejection away from this 1 hour fair value gap. So looking at all that, I was thinking, okay, we've come up into my nice high time frame. The intermediate time frames are looking good. We've shown displacement lower here, respecting bearish order flow here, and I was expecting the same here for it to push us lower. We did respect it and sweep this low, but obviously that wasn't enough for what I was looking for. So we'll come over to EU, and I'll explain what I was looking for here. So once again, we came down into the steady fair value gap. We closed inside of it a bit, but I was moving higher. I thought this looked really good to continue higher. Obviously, we do have a lot of room to the downside. However, if dollar's going to continue moving lower, that doesn't matter. This pair's going to move up. That's just how it works. We potentially will come back there another time because the market does normally always sort itself out and fill out the imbalances it has left. Even if it doesn't fill them for months or weeks, it usually always does go down to them. So, respecting this 4 hour here over Asian session, we also had this 1 hour inversion. So we tapped into the 4 hour right here, went down to it with a fair value gap. We then displaced through that. So I was thinking, okay, if we come down here, this is a great place to buy. Obviously we did with this candle right here, the 2 AM candle, just tapped into it. Huge rejection to the upside. I thought, okay, this looks really good, really nice trade. I got in off this break of structure right here. So we had this market structure shift. Once we tapped in, had a break, I got in, thought nice. We was moving okay, and obviously price just went lower. One thing I am going to implement, so I log my trades in batches of 20. My next video is going to be about that, or I've got one video about DXY, but that might be out before this, and then I've got a video where I'm explaining how I journal my trades and reviewing them. So I'm also changing one of my rules. I'm not going to trade Mondays anymore. I don't think there's a point. They're not a profitable day for me. I feel like obviously the market profile just kind of is set up we get a lot of manipulation on Mondays, so obviously that doesn't work great for me. I just don't trade them that well, so I'm going to be phasing them out. So yeah, I'll show you what happened on a few hours after the trade to just kind of see where my analysis went wrong. Okay, so as you can see, I've just skipped forward 12 or so hours, or almost 24 hours even, sorry. The 1 hour, price just went lower. We did initially come down to fill this smaller 1 hour fair value gap, and when I saw that I thought, oh, maybe just stop loss placement was in the wrong place and we're going to move higher. However, analysis was just completely wrong. We moved lower, filled this fair value gap. We did respect the fill of it and the consequent encroachment, but yeah, price just moved lower. Not much I can do about that. Analysis was wrong. Great trade though. Textbook, high probability trade. I'm happy I took this one for sure. Okay, so back on DXY, I took this trade on Wednesday the 2nd, I believe. Yeah. And yeah, I'll explain what I was looking for. Obviously, as we know, I am bearish DXY, expecting us to go down to here. Obviously, we did take that off the day of recording. However, I was looking at what we was doing around here, where we failed to get really anywhere near it. Price came up, again inverting this 4 hour, respecting this 4 hour. Although we was consolidating around here, I thought, okay, normally when price struggles to break a low, we normally come up, sweep some liquidity, whether that's this high, or this high, which was kind of my ideal target, and then move lower. However, this probably should have been a sign not to really trade, but we took this low right here, was moving higher off that, came down into this fair value gap right here, which was the main idea for us to at least come up into here. Had this fair value gap which we was respecting, so I thought, okay, there's a good chance, at least short term. Obviously I trade intraday or even scalping sometimes, so I don't, this is more than enough to make my move and to take a good trade for the day, or even up to here. However, obviously we did move lower, but I'll jump over and explain the trade I took. Okay, so I'm now on the EU chart. I'm just going to go over what I'm looking on here and why I chose this pair and why I took this trade. So as you can see, we had that 4 hour fair value gap which we had before. Obviously price did close through it, so, and we had, again, coming back to wanting to sweep liquidity to go higher, we had this low which was right where my target was. So I thought, okay, we've got really good drawn liquidity, we're disrespecting bullish order flow, there's a good chance we could go lower. Obviously lower time frame, this is very messy. However, even the fact we're still respecting this fair value gap, we did close quite high into it, but we then ended up pushing lower. We also had this 1 hour fair value gap which was created over Asian session, which we came into right here, respected perfectly with the bodies, and that's when I then entered. We had this 5-minute shift. I went for a pullback just so I could fit my target down to that low, and so we entered right in here on this candle. Price did come down a bit, however obviously it was just a pullback to continue higher, and this did end up being a great place to buy. So if I was on the other side of the market, this is where my analysis, I probably shouldn't have touched this really. However, it is a decent trade. It made sense to take at the time. I thought the signs were pointing here. However, obviously, price did have the liquidity, and as you can see, we did just end up moving higher. And then obviously, now that brings us on to today, where I can quickly go over what I'm looking at and seeing why I'm not really looking at anything today. So I was looking for this high. If you look through some of my other videos, obviously I look through everything as it's happening and I update you pretty much every week, so you can very much get an idea of what I'm looking for on the higher time frames. So, and obviously although I am pretty accurate, I'm never always right, as no one is. Obviously that's why I thought we was going to come up into here first and move lower, potentially even sweep this high, or even up into one of these gaps. I thought it was a lot less likely as we didn't need to. However, you never know. But obviously with the tariffs, I don't look at fundamentals, however, with the tariffs and whatever Trump said last night has caused this massive move to happen. So obviously we've now had a break of structure here, or depending on this close. However, we have left a massive and a pretty big gap right here for opening price. So the likelihood is this will get filled. These do get filled about 80% of the time. However, obviously tomorrow is also NFP. So what I was expecting is we're probably just going to consolidate here and then move up, fill this, and then we can just go into the next week with hopefully take some good trades and be on the right side of price. I did have this daily fair value gap right here. If I draw this out just so you can see it and see what price did to it. Obviously we've disrespected straight through it. We might even be coming down to here. However, obviously I'm not going to sell here. We're right at this target anyway. So it's just a day of me sitting out and waiting to see what happens. There isn't much you can really do in this position. Even if you wanted to look to buy, obviously there's so much volume or momentum even to the downside. You're not just going to buy here. I would need a lot to buy here. Even if we did respect this, I would need probably even a break of these highs, and then I probably couldn't target anything anyway. Obviously NFPs tomorrow, so these Thursdays, a lot of people don't like them. I've not found any issue with them. However, everyone's different. I don't like trading Mondays. Some people, that's their best day. And even in my back testing, I've got years and years, hundreds of trades of data, and Monday was always a fine day. However, obviously in live, I don't know what it is. I just don't do well with it. Funnily enough, Wednesday's an important day as well, but I'll leave that for the review video. So I'll go over to gold. I can quickly explain potentially what I'm looking at right here. So on the daily, we swept the previous all-time highs, rejected them really nicely, and price is moving lower. My target is potentially this daily fair value gap right here. It's just the first kind of point of sabotage, and obviously gold is always bullish, so whenever you are selling, you are going against your trading counter trend, so to speak. So you always have to kind of make sure you've got that extra confidence. I like buying, so for example, this would have been a great buy off this right here. Obviously it's not in session for me. We like respecting these fair value gaps. So if we come up into either this fair value gap right here or this one, I'll move that down there now as this one's formed as I was making the video. And if we then have a shift, I'm very happy to sell down to here. But if that does happen, I'll add that in at the end of this video. However, I don't really care if it doesn't. March has been a very good month for me. I've had a great start to the year, so I'm not trying to just force anything, or I'm trying to be sensible with my trading and only take setups when the market presents something to me. The market needs to convince me to take a trade. I don't want to convince myself to take a trade, if that makes sense. So yeah, don't force yourself into the markets. Obviously, we had FOMC week where I showed how I navigated that. I navigated that pretty successfully. I don't like looking at trades on a week-by-week basis. However, for video purposes, it's quite helpful. Obviously, NFP hasn't been as good, but what can I do? I don't mind. You win some, you lose some. So yeah, I've got the next few videos coming out are going to be really insightful and very, very useful. There'll be a lot you can take in to improve your trading. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to like, make sure to subscribe, make sure to check out my TikTok, because I post a lot of the trades I take on there first. And yeah, so I'll speak to you next time.